everybody. Welcome to the show today. We're going to be doing, well, we don't know, but happy to have you all here. Do keep in mind today is probably going to be more of a Jerry Lewis telethon. We do have GoFundMe's in progress, clean underwear for Booster and send Booster to Namibia. So everybody get on board, give your pennies. We need to help the Booster because he's in need. And a friend in need is someone that we should, you know, glance attention at. Nevertheless, you guys know that over here, at least in the Tyranny of Dragons here, that I'm just a player. Bill's in charge, but Bill's a touch under the weather. Are you okay, Bill? There you go. I
I'm
guess.
I've
Okay.
been touched.
He's been touched.
Bill, do we
Where?
need to
Show
talk
us on the
about
doll.
your feelings?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes.
I'm kind of feeling like the guy in the foreground of this painting.
I see. Well, let me show the painting that you're sharing with
You
everybody.
see?
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
Oh yeah,
that's a way to feel. That's a way to feel, for sure.
yeah. He's got more hair than I do. I'm kind of jealous, but other than that, I'm pretty much
Yeah,
looking just like him right now.
Oh wow, look, Facebook is still not working
it's been working fine for me. I don't. People were saying it was down, and I went to go check it, and it was working.
worldwide. Facebook and Instagram down. Yeah, it's not working.
That's
Not
weird.
working, baby. They're having some problems,
And
but of course, they're in the news a little. There's a little bit of a problem going on for them. But that's life,
Yeah, I
I
feel
guess.
better already.
yeah, mine seems to be working right now. It's weird.
Maybe you're
Okay,
chosen.
I
I
am
do.
one. I am the chosen one. Yes.
It is
Maybe.
interesting though because there's no one in the chat. Nobody. That's
So
rare. That is rare.
we're just
No.
talking to
Uh,
ourselves. Then.
yeah, we are just talking to ourselves. But let me try that again and see if I don't know. Facebook seems to be completely down. Oh, there it is. It came up now. Uh, so let me see here. They are having them some troubles though, but I don't think I
Mhm.
think it was I think they did it on purpose.
Is one of those ghouls
It's possible.
holding a doorknob?
I think so. No, that is a doorknob. That's
Yeah,
definitely a doorknob. Yeah.
or a
Wow.
handle to
All
a
right.
drawer,
A
Nah,
drawer.
or the side of a coffin
or
from a
an ice
pallbearer.
chest,
Hmm.
but it's probably supposed to be a coffin. That's fair enough.
A cooler, a
But
zombie cooler.
I don't know. They seem to be prisoners, so I don't know. At least one of them's chained.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It's a good piece of art. That's a good thing about fantasy in general, but D&D has certainly had an evolution of art over the decades, and some of the
Oh,
art is quite magically beautiful. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
think about it. I don't think Brahm would be anywhere near as famous and popular if it weren't for D&D, right? Um, but you have other people like Elmwood and Elwood. Is that his name? Elwood or Elmwood?
I
Anyway,
think
there's
some
a bunch of
would, but
um,
that sounds more familiar. But
there's a lot of famous D&D artists. The fun,
easily.
well,
So I was thinking
you
it
being an
starts with
artist
E,
yourself,
but
Bill.
and a couple. There's a couple of guys who got their start in D&D who actually had quite an, a real influence on the comic book genre. Here's one artist. That's Bill Willingham from Fables and Vertigo.
Ooh,
He started out as a D&D artist.
yep.
Um, Another one is Timothy Truman. Um, let's see if I have anything saved on here, but he's incredible. He did Hawkworld was back in the late
Ooh, I
'80s,
remember Hawkworld.
and a lot of
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of heavy metal books. And Turok, I think, was one of his books too. But Truman and Willingham, incredible creators. That came out
Well,
of D&D early '80s.
I think that
Or yeah,
during the '60s,
sorry.
during the '60s, there was, I think, in early '70s, there was a real fall in art. I'm sure there were great artists working at that time. Of course, there were. But popular art I think became ugly, and I understand it's subjective, but and when D&D started, it was kind of still at the tail end of that ugliness, and the initial art in D&D was pretty bad from my point of view. But as we scaled through the 80s and beyond, we started getting some absolutely fantastic stuff come out. So D&D did start in a sad place, but it's certainly gotten to a good place. A lot of the art we see now in the fifth edition is actually not bad.
Yeah, although it feels
Well,
like the
what's
earlier
interesting
stuff
is
in.
in
Oh,
the
sorry.
no, go ahead, buddy.
I was just saying the earlier stuff in fifth edition seemed to be better than some of the stuff coming out now.
That's
But
true. They're trying to save money.
yeah, yeah, or other reasons. But you know, we'll go with money.
Yeah, well, no, that's fair. The this is the right person for the job, not the best. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah,
They have they have changed art direction quite a bit, but through the in the early years, Gary was hiring anyone he could get, and usually they were kids in high school, so he could pay them, you know, a quarter for a drawing. And it's interesting. One of their first books, the Chainmail books, is it's all plagiarism from Steranko and Kirby.
Huh?
Nick Fury Agent of Shield panels are actually most of the chainmail artwork.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was just really poorly redone. But there's some kid, I forget the name of the artist, who took the poses and just put them in loincloths and swords.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what he sold to Gary for a quarter.
A
I'll try and look
quarter.
up something in a minute. But and then
Unbelievable.
it wasn't until probably 2 or 3 years down the line when they just started picking up and they got all the business out of the California kids in MIT, and the Lake Geneva started to actually establish itself, is when they started hiring some really talented artists
Sure. Yeah.
like the Earl Otis and Rosloff and Jeff D
Well,
came in.
chainmail came out of something very similar to we see coming out of this indie movement over here. People that have an idea and just trying to get something funded. It's That's exactly what chainmail and then later D&D was. When it started making crazy money, that's when they were able to invest money into it, right? Because initially it was shoestring as hell, dude. It's
Oh
almost a
yeah, yeah, it
miracle that it even
absolutely
came
was.
to be, right? So
Well, and if you've ever tried to play it, it's really hard unless you have the background in the war game, because it
yeah,
took for granted the fact
yeah.
that you were a war gamer.
Yeah, it did. It did. But
Um,
it improved. What was those two guys that were really responsible for Mystara, the original world? They're the ones that really kind of fleshed it out. Them and Arnson and stuff like that. And
well,
Greenwood.
you had a let's see, the blue box is Holmes. That was the first edition that was really D&D. It wasn't chainmail anymore, and that one was really hard to understand. Also, it still took a lot from the war game genre, but it did mix in the information that was in the Greyhawk expansion and the Blackmore expansion for chainmail. The
Yeah.
Greyhawk was, of course, Gary's realm, and Blackmore was Arnson's realm. And so they put that together with the blue box, or known as the Holmes set. And then that one was the one that sold commercially. That's the one that really started picking up steam for them.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I don't think it became an actual sit down role playing game until AD&D anyway. I think
Well,
that's when it
actually,
really became its
the
own
Holmes,
thing.
the Moldvay edition was the one that turned it into a multi-million-dollar seller. Is when this one, that's my favorite, when this one came out.
Yeah.
And AD&D came out
80 maybe? 82? 80?
77 is when the Monster Manual came out. Well,
77.
that's the copyright on this page, but this one was in the 70s also. But AD&D first came out with it was the Monster Manual
I'm talking about
before the
AD&D.
yeah, yeah. AD&D Monster Manual came out before the players and before the DMG came out before the
Okay.
Dungeon Master got. Those didn't come out for a few years later, so that wasn't until like that. Yeah, 81 is when I think the first Dungeon Master Guide came out. So people were playing a blend of this and AD&D with a lot of rules that came out of Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine.
Yeah, no, that is definitely
So
true. Those are very
that's
influential.
how. They,
Um, you know,
yeah, that's
the first time I played D&D was 1979, and even at that by that time, it was we were still playing the red box, right, and maybe a little bit of blue. But by the time I was 12, so 82, or 83, my grandmother of all people bought me the AD&D book that had the blue cover with the wizard on it, the
yeah,
player's handbook, and
yeah. The expert. Yeah.
no, the AD&D book, the Advanced
Oh,
Dungeon
the
Dragons book.
ADD. Oh, the
So
blue with the wizard. So with Ring Alert, the LJN character that they made him into an action figure.
yeah.
That was
See if you can find that
yeah.
real quick. I mean, I can. I guess I can do it probably easier. Let me go find it. Let's
Does he
see.
have Kung Fu
Yeah,
grip?
no, Pots. Yeah, the blue box. The blue box was a sit down D&D. Yeah, it was the first one. That was the one where it's the dragon sitting on the horde. The doors are open in front of it, and all the players came in, and that was kind of like the quintessential image for the red dragon for years, where it had like a goatee, kind of mane on its chin.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that one was that was the original Dungeons and Dragons, and that was Holmes was the editor for that, and did most of the textual writing. I mean, it was Gary's product and Arnson's product, and then
yeah.
Home that was Holmes who did the work on it.
I should
But
I should go buy this again, man. I should go get it just for nostalgia's sake. But yeah, this is the one I'm talking about here. That one. That was my very first book I owned. I played it for years before that, but I didn't own any books because my parents never spent money on me anyway. But they would never buy a D&D book for me. My grandmother bought this for me, and it was my very first book, and I read the thing literally to death.
yeah, that I had the copy of that book also. That's the first one that AD&D book I had. I actually remember playing. Well, in '79, I remember my oldest siblings and my older cousins were all playing it, and I thought it was really cool. And I would just look at the pictures and read. I was probably like I don't know 4. Yeah, I was 4 years old, so I can remember it. And then, but AD&D, I played a little bit of D&D in elementary school, but we went. That was kiddie stuff. Was D&D. Everyone wanted to play AD&D. It was like D&D was like you came in and it was your introduction, but you didn't stay and play it for long. You went to AD&D right away as soon as you could
That's true.
understood the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the set of books that I have now, because I did get some a while back, was the original one. Let's see if I can pull up the Player's Handbook. There's the one with the idol on the cover.
Oh yeah. Sure.
That really great. Yeah.
There were
No, it's not that.
that well, we could sit and chat. I guess that's what we're doing today. But there are so many great books came out. But there was when I was playing D&D, really in the all throughout the 80s. AD&D and D&D were. I understand your point, and you're not wrong, but they were also interchangeable. They went together, and we mixed them without even thinking about it. We didn't need some special chart to do so. Here's a good example. This is probably I'm going to show right
Right.
here. This is probably one of my favorite books ever to come out of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's part of the Creature Crucible series with John Nephew and the Tall Tales of the Wee Folk. There were 3 or 5, I can't remember, at least 3 of these Creature Crucibles, maybe 5. And I owned them all. I still own. I think I own most of them now. But I love these books, and as you can see, it's D&D. It's not AD&D, but we never played D&D from when I was from 81 or 80. I've never played D&D until we did it a little while ago. It was always AD&D or beyond that. But yet we would take all these old Mystara based stuff, and we just incorporate it, right? Because that's one thing I think I've noticed these
Yeah,
days. These fifth edition younger players, they're not versatile. They're very stiff. If it's not in the book, they're incapable of adjusting themselves. Not all of them, of course, but they seem very stiff. When we would
I feel like
adapt naturally, huh?
well,
that was a
I
jab
find
at me. No, I get what
Maybe,
you're saying now. Maybe a little bit.
maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, no, let's see. They have this one. They had the other one, which was the Sea People. Um, I'm trying to remember.
and
I
the
know there's
top
a
ballista was
Topalista. That's right. Yeah.
here. I have
Uh,
the
The
second
sea
one.
and
people
there was a
is a
werewolf
what?
Yeah,
one. So maybe
yeah.
there's four.
Those are the
Let
only
me.
three.
Ooh.
Those, maybe there's I haven't seen the werewolf one, but the other ones, yeah, I bought or got copies of. So um, I still haven't read them. I'm kind of at the point where it's like I just pick up this stuff and just buy it and hold on to it, and maybe I'll get around to reading it. But
Right,
yeah, I don't have all the
right.
free time
No,
I
I
used to.
understand. Another book that
Oh,
really struck me, and I loved it. I don't know why it was so important to me, but it was the Unearthed Arcana, the AD&D Unearthed Arcana, the first one. Uh,
oh
that
yeah,
that book was special for some reason.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
there's four
from what I found after
Night
reading
Howls. Yes.
a lot of different blogs, it's like the best D&D is the one you were first introduced to. No matter
Maybe.
what, whenever you came into the game, the one that you've started playing is the one that that's the one you break your teeth on it and holds a special place in your heart as a player is what I found. Because I'll see people argue, this version, that version is the best, and I always come back to the one that I first saw that just blew me away. So I think the best one's the one that you start playing and you enjoy the most. And it's what's really cool about the game is after what we're going on 50 years now is that
Yeah,
there's such variety. The depth, it's a mile deep and a mile wide with the amount of opportunity to play and different things you can do with it.
yeah,
It's really no limit anymore. So I think the coin term greatest role playing game is true because of that,
yeah.
because of the history,
I
and
agree.
because of the availability of products.
But I think
So,
what GOP said earlier maybe plays a part in it because of the initial editions. Because keep in mind, AD&D and D&D, the box set stuff, was interchangeable for quite a while. And
yeah,
because those first books were really not intuitive, they was assuming you had knowledge of this stuff. You had to be adaptable. You had to be able to be able to take this set and drop it into another rule set very smoothly and easily. And I think there was a certain benefit you gained from that. You know what I mean? And Jeff over here is talking a little bit about modules and stuff. The interesting thing is, Jeff, I didn't really play any module. I played no modules until I joined the RPGA, and that was a long time after I started playing D&D. I mean, much more than a decade. Um, and so we never played modules. We never bought them. I always saw them on the shelves, and I was like, why do people spend money on that? For me, it was an antithesis of the system. It's you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to be creating something yourself. I never understood the module thing, and it was very sad for me with fifth edition that they went back to that. We're just going to basically make modules, right? And it was kind of sad for me. And there's other things that are sad about fifth edition. It should be called D&D Junior, I think. Well, what I'd like to see them do is come out with whatever
well,
5.5, which will be coming out in 2 years, I would assume, right, for the 50th anniversary,
Yeah,
right?
although I did hear that they should be putting out. I heard something about them bringing out like a compendium
Mm-hmm.
that should be like changing some of the stuff around, like more for 5.5 and kind of getting that prepared.
Well,
But that when was that supposed to come out? I remember seeing a video on it, but I
this
forget when.
20 next year, 2022, because
Okay.
2024, I mean, will be the 50th
They're-
anniversary, and they've got to do something for that. I mean, I understand there's a bunch of soy boy wank offs over there at Watsy right now, but Jesus, I mean, come on,
Yeah,
right,
it would
right?
it would be
well,
interesting.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of there's a lot of speculation, I think, and then they've been dropping some hints, and I think you'll see the worlds that haven't been explored yet. The Dragonlance, the Dark Sun, and that such a thing is what seems to be going to be all launched then. But before that, they'll be sending out the new players DM and monster manual in the next year. I think it's coming out next year.
Maybe, uh,
So,
but I
and it's
mean,
supposed to be an enhancement and not necessarily a rewrite. So, whatever. I mean, it's a cash grab, but hey,
of course it is, and they've
Well,
always had that aspect to them. But I'm kind of curious why. Why do we have the constant running of the black sheep, the firefly of fantasy spelljammers? Why won't they give us that to us? I mean, it's the perfect mold for them to drop any world they want in. How in the hell have they just refused since AD&D to give us spelljammer? What is the deal with that? Anybody? Anybody?
no clue. I'm not in their
well, I think
heads.
Spelljammers is a great system, man. It
It was
was never really completed. If reading what some of
no.
the creators said, they never got to finish it how they wanted to. But that's again, who needs that? All those the modern day gamers may need that, but we don't.
No,
Old
we
school
don't. We
guys,
can make our own thing. But I'm just saying that,
No.
I am a collector as well, right? But I don't collect modules. I
yeah.
collect, rule books and stuff. But sitting right next to me on my table is my complete stack of fifth edition. So I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 books. Fifth edition has been out how long?
Oh, it's been a
Oh,
while
A long
now.
time. And sitting,
5 years, 2015, right?
Yeah, I think it was
2016.
so
2015.
six,
I think it
seven
was
years. Okay.
2015.
And
Yeah.
I have 20 fourth edition books sitting in the case right in front of me, and there's more in the other room. So they're missing out. I don't understand why they went that route, because they're obviously making money, so good enough. But you know, there's a lot of us who
Well,
are simply
they did
collectors,
drop
right?
two. I think they dropped three rule books this year, or four, because there was Tasha's in the beginning of the year. Then they did the
Yeah.
Fizzbands, which is all dragon related. Um, Ravenloft is a setting and a campaign, really. Oh, what was the other one? There's another Mordenkainen and Monstrous Manual or something like that.
Yeah,
That was
Well,
a
I
real
think it.
soft
Well,
those
sell.
are last year though.
yeah. I.
Was
I
that
mean,
last
I.
year?
I am kind of interested when they put out the big compendium thing for the simple fact that, um, like, because it's. I think it's gonna have. I mean, it's gonna have everything, even the stuff that's like module specific monsters who didn't make it into like the main manuals and stuff. And I really. I think like as far
Right.
as reading the different
And
stuff,
the classes
I
and all that.
yeah, I enjoy the B series. I think they're
And
cool.
races.
Like,
Yeah.
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 So, I
I
mean, I
love the
even
B
have some.
series. Yeah, I got
Yeah,
dozens of
those
those.
are. Yeah, those are
I
my
love Monster.
favorite books to have, just because it's there's just so much variety, and I have some third party stuff too,
Yeah.
like Cobalt Press stuff. I mean,
Oh well,
that's
yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
that
Kobold Press has the best Monster.
The
Oh,
yeah,
my gosh. Those are
creature.
just so creative.
Yeah, no, the
Creature
Crucible.
Codex.
Codex? Yes.
Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff from like back when Fantasy Flight was actually making role playing games instead of board games.
Oh, yeah.
Way back then.
No, but as
Uh,
far as like the old module, as far as the old modules goes, yeah, I never really played the old modules, but I would buy the sets for like expansions, like Lankmar. I bought that set.
yeah, like me.
I got Dark Sun. Yeah, Lankmare. Okay, thank you.
Well,
I've
whatever.
pronounced it wrong my whole
I don't
life.
think it mattered.
But and that set was amazing. I mean, there was a map in there like the size of like a formal dining room table. It was massive. It took up like the whole entire like
Yeah,
bedroom
it was
floor.
cool. And that's where the gray Mauser
Oh
comes
yeah,
from, right?
gosh. Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
sure.
Farford and the Gray Mouser.
Yeah, that's right.
But they're like the only manual. I think the only module I really bought was Ravenloft because that cover, the original one, was so evocative.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm glad I got that one. That one's going for a crazy amount of money now.
Oh, really? I got one sitting right in the
Yeah,
closet.
yeah, that one. Depending on eBay, I mean, it's going for
No,
I don't know a few $100 now.
I would never sell
But
my
I'll
books.
never
I
get
don't
rid of it.
care. Yeah.
No, I've already figured out how I'm gonna have like when I die, like all my favorite comics and modules, how would they be pulped, turned into wood, and give me like a biodegradable coffin. I think it's the
Oh,
way I'm
there
gonna
you
go.
go. Yeah. Actually, my wife asked me the other day, when you die, what do I do with all your shit? It's like, thanks.
Wow, that's
Right?
uh, that's quite a question.
Well, she didn't put it like that. She said, "What do I do with all your books?" Um, but Jeff Lorenzo says he has basic D&D books, and he's talking about the blue cover, the blue wizard. Excuse me, cover. Yeah, I know I know there were other books before it. I played it. I was playing it for years. It was just the first book I owned because I was a kid. I didn't have any of my own money. My parents wouldn't buy me anything. My grandmother did, but I think here's the weird thing. You guys know I tell little stories here or there, but the first business I ever had in my life, I got a lawnmower, beat up, broken lawnmower from my uncle. It didn't work. I went to the library, got a couple of books, came home and read them, got the lawnmower working, and went door to door offering to cut people's lawns. Now, I used a lot of that money for like bottle rockets because, bottle rocket wars. But I also bought some books here or there. And I have a feeling one of the things that really motivated me to go out and try to make my own money was so I could buy my own D&D books, man. Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
Yep.
no, it's cool.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, and then another point, yeah, and that is actually that's what I would do too. That's how I was able to afford my comic book collection was going out, shoveling snow, mowing lawns,
Yep. Yep.
and paper route. And then, yeah, for a long time, all my income was going to those kinds of things, disposable income.
Yeah. Oh,
But
that's
I see
smart.
where, Lorenzo makes points like, is fifth edition watered down? Yes and no. It's
Yes.
simplified. Um,
Yes. The answer is yes.
when you compare it to it is when you compare it to a lot of entertainment nowadays, it all seems a little watered down to me. But
Yeah.
whether it's a video games aren't as hard as I feel like even some of the 8-bit stuff was. They were just freaking impossible. They're more complex in some ways. There's a lot of details, but it's all kind of
Easy.
extraneous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
extraneous detail to facilitate gameplay. But
And
um,
it's interesting you mentioned video games because that's what fifth edition is trying to do. It's trying to be a video game on the table. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They don't care about role playing. What they care about is the action set piece of the movie, right? You're playing a movie. That's why they do all these modules. It's you don't have characters you keep for a long time and build up. It's just okay, new character for this, new character. Go watch all of these YouTubers that have popped up, and good on them. But all these YouTubers that become quite popular, selling on fifth edition, they're always talking about the best build for this or the best build for that. They're not making characters; they're making an interaction for the movie this week, right? And the video game this week. That's what they've done. Fourth edition is where they literally tried to make it mix cards and video game into the D&D. That's what fourth edition was. Fifth edition was promised to go back to the original, and it did not. It still has the same people over there with the same thinking. They're basically your character doesn't mean anything. That's why they don't have anything in there for you to craft or build up strongholds or do stuff beyond rolling a skill dice, answering a question, and combat, which is sad because that's not what D&D is. Most of D&D is the other thing, right? It's the character development and the stuff of this character. You're trying to make this person into something. The adventuring is a end to a means. But the new edition is all about, let's go play this video game, let's go to the movies. And
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
it doesn't prevent you from doing those things, but
no,
it doesn't it doesn't yeah, I guess it doesn't like encourage you to do them
not at
either.
all. Yeah, and look what we did here. My character, I've been pushing the
But
whole time with Nicodemus is to do those things because that's what I am. I'm an actual D&D gamer, and we figured it out. Of course, of course you can figure it out, but they're not. It's beyond not having information available. They're simply trying to discourage it.
Yeah.
well, and I see how it's created two of the I don't know, sorry the word I'm thinking of. I'm kind of dealing with physical limitations tonight, but results or have come out of this. One is the huge surge in popularity.
Yeah,
So like my niece is a freshman in college and she joined the D&D game group. There is 350 people in it.
nice.
18 campaigns are running right now. That's massive. It's never been that popular. The other side of it is the resurgence, the whole OSR side of the business. That's what you where TSR was actually one of the best things they did for the community was to create the open game license.
The OGL, yeah.
So now the amount of games that are out there now for other people to play and the crossover now with people who came in at 5th edition wanted to see what the old games were like and found an easy avenue like the game that version that we played a few weeks ago, old school essentials, is basic D&D, but the book is written in a format that is fluid. It's not a lot of flipping back and forth, back and forth. I mean, he just cut and paste everything so it's linear and easier to sort through.
Yeah.
And there's so many products like that. I mean, it really is like a new golden age for D&D. There's whatever you're really interested in is there.
Mhm.
However you like to play is there, and the amount of people playing are there. So it's
Yeah.
a good time. It is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
fifth, I mean, yeah, 5th edition is excellent at getting people's foot in the door.
Yeah, that's
Like in
exactly
a
what it
way
is.
that yeah, I mean, and but yeah, once
Once they
again,
take
if you're
once they take their first hit, they're hooked, man.
Yeah.
right,
You
well, I
got
mean,
them for
that's
life.
that's how it was with me, like that's because I got in at 5th edition. It's because I couldn't really play it when I was young. So yeah, I kind of do feel like it's simple enough for people who've never played to jump into it. But once you have been playing a while, there's really nothing preventing you from making it more complicated. Like adding to the
Sure.
base
Right.
Home
that they
ruling,
have.
yeah. Home ruling. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, no, that's very true.
Yeah.
And in that way, I appreciate fifth edition for doing what it's done. Because you have the weekend gamers who fifth edition is perfect for. Then you have the people that are like, hey, this is interesting, and they start looking into older editions. And then you have the passion starts getting creeping out, and you get people put together a more understandable thing. Because a lot of the early, it's not just Gary. A lot of the early tabletop role playing games, the way they put those books together were very unintuitive. They really were, and I don't understand the thinking that made that. Why doesn't B come after A? But it's just the way they were. So people doing that is awesome. That is really awesome, and you get a lot of people are getting into it. Like I saw online a really beautiful. Of course, it's all stolen and it's all copyrighted material, but someone went and put together a complete codex of Mystara, and it's really good. I was like, wow,
Nice.
not
Oh
bad,
yeah.
man.
Well, there's that one web page. There's that web page where it's just like people have been still playing Mystara, and it's a huge, huge repository of everything. I mean,
Oh,
they're not putting
Mystara's
any
awesome.
copyrighted material up, but yeah, Mystara is. And I didn't really even know that was the original world. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that till just like a year ago. And
Yeah,
and that's kind of like the era That's basically like the generic D&D world to start out was Mystara.
right. Yeah, and I've
And
always
it's,
been a Mystara
yeah.
guy over everything else. Although Forgotten Realms, I do know a lot about. But the interesting thing we got to keep in mind also when we're talking about D&D and other role-playing games, D&D led the way. But a lot of people credit Tolkien and Howard and some of those other writers of the era for creating this modern concept of fantasy, right? And they in a core way they certainly did. But if you go back and read Tolkien, not talk about the movie, just read the book. Tell me what an elf really looks like, right? But with all these D&D guys and all the campaigns and all the stuff that's been going on for decades, they've fleshed out what exactly an elf is, what exactly a dwarf is, what exactly a gnome is, etc., etc. They fleshed them out much better than the initial inception, and you'll get variants. Like the standard elf we have today is really coming out as a combination of Tolkien and Greenwood with his Forgotten Realms. That is the modern image of an elf. But if you go to Mystara, the elves are a little different,
Yeah.
right? So this is a
Huh.
really cool thing that's happened. I'm not complaining at all. I'm actually praising it. It was awesome. Greyhawk was interesting. I wasn't as much a fan as I was in Mystara, Jeff. But to each his own, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I was. Uh, yeah, I'm just in loving every minute of it. So, speaking of D&D, do you guys want to play now?
No, we don't got
Let's see
anybody
what we
here,
can
dude.
do.
Let's
Well, here's
just
the
chat.
thing. So,
It's fine.
yeah, okay, all right, that's cool. I'm cool with that.
Down two
Silence.
people, so
Dun dun
yeah.
dun.
I know, right?
Yeah, we are.
We are.
We
Yeah,
are.
let's just sit
But
here and chat for a
Lorenzo,
little while longer,
you're.
and then I'll go get my hair cut. Perfect. I need to get my hair cut.
Ooh,
I was gonna say.
like a pompadour, or
I
what
know
are
we
you
have. We're gonna start a new. We're gonna start a new campaign. Oh yeah, sorry, Chester's hair. Wow, what are you doing, buddy?
thinking?
Fade.
Are
You
you
need a
going
fade.
for something creative?
Oh no, no, I always look like a G-man from the '60s.
All right, all right. I
There
can
you
dig it.
go. High and tight.
Hmm. Hmm.
All right. Um, but I was gonna. I'm putting it out there for new players who want to play. And some of our current players have had changes in responsibilities, and it's harder for them to make it. So I know Lady Celtic Moon was interested, and Lorenzo, if you're interested in giving some of these, we're going to do some older games a try. Yeah, Zach is drowning in commissions. Poor boy.
Yeah, poor boy.
Congratulations, Zach. I'm happy for him. He's been working hard, chomping at the bit for years.
He
So,
has. He
He
um,
has.
has.
He has. Yeah.
yeah, he
But
really has.
I was actually surprised. Lady Celtic Moon fell in like a glove, man. No
Yeah, she was
problem, dude.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, she's
there's
all into it. I mean, she's picked up manuals. She's ready to play. So
Well, I
we're
mean, but
definitely she's
she
more than
she
welcome.
was. It's as if you're sitting at the table with a player. I mean, she
mm,
knew exactly what she was
Yeah,
doing. She there was no education. And when I started doing this stuff on the channel, and how many campaigns did I run GOP before Bill took over here?
I mean, I
Five?
wasn't. I don't remember because I mean, well, I
there was
wasn't
the.
here for all of them. Like, yeah, I
Well,
jumped
I
I think
remember
it
in.
was
And,
the
five.
first. Sorry.
No, go ahead,
Wow.
dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I remember the first one. There was like 10 players.
Yeah, that was with John.
It was like Ross and Dillard and Model and Kat and JP and me and Brad. I think that was it. That's a pretty heavy load there. And that
Yeah,
one, it was a schedule thing. It didn't work out. And then I think you were doing that superhero one,
right. Then I did
Marvel.
the
And I
the
tried.
White
Yeah,
Wolf
and I was.
one, right? Then I
I
did
didn't
the
do the
other
White
one. I think
Wolf
it's
one. I know the
five.
Marvel one.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That
So
doesn't
good.
matter.
No, I'm happy to run.
No, and I'm
No,
happy to
I'm
be
happy
able
to
to play
run. I
because I
mean,
never get to play. But the point being is that we've been doing it on the channel for a while, and it's a lot of fun. We definitely got to start a new campaign. Would love to have some more people come in here and play with us. We don't need many, really. I think a tighter group is better than a larger group. When I was, you're talking about 10 players. I mean, I ran it, but damn, dude, you know.
I couldn't run it. Not online.
well,
Yeah,
yeah, I
no
know
way.
one guy
Not without
who's down to
having.
play, but yeah. So I don't know
Okay.
how many we
Cool.
got
Well then,
confirmed, but
lady
yeah.
and your friend, and then we could do one more because
We could.
I think I'm not going to speak for Zach, but it sounds like he could use a break, but
Yeah.
he's always welcome.
Well,
You
of
know.
course he is, but 4 to 6 is very easily doable. More than that, you start it gets a little burdensome. I think the reason why I was able to handle the 10 is because well, I'm constantly handling classrooms full of people, right? So, well, I've been doing it
We just
decades,
killed
Yep.
him,
so
so
I have the
yeah.
experience with that. But because
Yeah.
that's not easy. You shouldn't put that on a DM. That's not a normal thing to do. But four
No.
to six, no
No,
problem.
it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No, I run round 9 when I run like I have a group of kids who are either just graduated or they're in their senior year. But that's around the same table, and that's not as
Yeah,
much of a
that is a
problem.
lot easier too.
True.
Yeah.
I'm the dad, so I already have that level of
That's
of
true.
authority and
That there
respect just walking in the room.
there is certain experience
So
now.
I'm the yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
it is fun. It's a blast
it is fun.
having a lot of people,
I
but
do miss though sitting at a table behind the DM screen and having a group of people in front of you and the interaction that happens over that evening of play. I mean, it's fun what we're doing. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, but there is something to say for the table. It is missed.
Yeah. It is nice.
yes,
It's a little harder to do that when you're playing internationally, though.
It is, but and it's cool that we can, right? It is neat.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with Critical Role and Fantasy Grounds and things like that they've come out with, and D&D was working on it for a while. They promised us the ability to do this, and in the end, they really didn't deliver, right? And they just seemed to gave up on it. Well, we do have, like I said, with Critical Role and Fantasy Grounds, there is you can do it, but there's a steep ass learning curve, steep learning curve on that. So in D&D fifth, the WotC people, we're working on something, and if you guys remember way back, before I think even before fifth edition or right in the beginning of fifth edition, and they just dropped it, and it's like, man, put a little bit of money and just sell it for like 20, 30, $40, something like that on Steam, right? That we can
Mhm.
interact with each other and do it in a very clean way. Tabletop Simulator allows you to do things, but it's clunky. We need a smooth system that will allow us to really get that table feel. And it's sad for me because if you look at what WotC was doing years back, and they were working on, because they were constantly giving updates, if you guys remember, it looked promising. It looked very promising, and it just disappeared. And I think that's
yeah.
unfortunate.
I guess it just the ROI just wasn't enough for them to put in the capital. It just
I
the model didn't
suppose,
work
but
well.
like I said, just drop it on Steam. People spend 20, $40 for that.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised like they haven't tried to do anything in the VR space yet. I
Or
think
the
that'd be
AR
interesting.
space, even.
Yeah, well, AR space would be really cool,
That would be the
but
best for tape for D&D
it,
at the table. Jesus, dude.
yeah, absolutely would be. I completely agree. But AR is still
Well,
it's not as like prominent as VR is becoming.
Fair.
I mean, because with the Oculus, like VR just went through the roof compared to what it was. So um, but yeah, I could see like that'd be an interesting way to get people into D&D too. You have sort of the D&D kind of tactical feel to it to a degree, but it would all be set in a virtual space. Now, granted, that would be kind of limiting, but the idea is ultimately it's just one step easier to get people on board. So you incrementally get them to a point where they're playing D&D, the traditional way where you can be more
Right.
creative.
Well, I mean, what they were working on, it looked really neat, and it definitely had the tabletop feel, and just something that's easy to interact with and use. And they could sell little modules like for $5 a pop or $10 a pop, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be
you
a
know,
lot easier and cheaper for them.
yeah, and
so
then yeah, and sell 500,000 at the first on release. It would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd
no,
be pretty crazy.
it's a money
But
making thing. I don't understand why they dropped it, but but we have to keep in mind the people who are
well, I
running
seen.
WotC are not the people who started D&D. They're not the same level of human. They're simply not. Now, Gary might have been a basement dweller, fair enough, but he's a frickin' genius, as was Arnson and Greenwood and Nephews and all those other dudes who were out in the initial and for years after. Those people were hardworking number crunchers, and they knew exactly how to lay things out and get the work done. The people who are in charge now are more interested in something being of the right color or the right persuasion than they are in doing the fucking job. And that's the reality. And every time I see their faces, it makes me sick.
Well, I mean, those sort of like the caliber of people that we're dealing with now is just
Sure.
They're not. They're
not as
not
good across the
worthy.
board though.
They're not
Like
worthy.
but that's not specific to D&D. That's
No,
everywhere.
it's not. But I
You
don't give a
know.
shit about other things.
Well, no,
No.
but what I'm
But
saying
and the
is
other thing that goes
it's a
with it is
cultural
that
thing as a whole.
Say it
they'll
again, Bill.
crush anyone who comes up and says anything different. I was saying, and
Yeah.
they'll crush over anyone who comes up with
Well,
another
look,
option. Like Ernie,
yeah,
Ernie
look what they
Gygax,
did to
he got
Ernie.
the TSR license. He
His,
started putting stuff together, and so they canceled him.
yeah, they didn't like it, and
Mhm.
They
they
went on a
banned
tail.
him from his dad's own goddamn convention.
Wow.
Outrageous
Yeah, and scared
hubris,
away his
dude.
advertisers.
Yeah. Take that, Picard.
So
That's
that's
fucking
why,
hubris. That's fucking hubris. Goddamn stupid Star Trek series.
and that's part of the main reason why. I mean, I don't want to play 5e anymore. I don't want to be part of that group. I want to play
Yeah, it's bugged me too.
for
Yeah.
fun, and I want to, yeah, and then the whole stuff that came out about Hasbro and the stuff that they push. So it's just, forget it, man. We're gonna go back to
Yeah.
the people who did made the game for the love of the game
Yeah, who are
because they
worthy
were
of it.
hardcore into creating something. Yeah, the Mulvey's, the Holmes, the Gygaxes, and all those, and they weren't great people either. I mean, Arnson had to sue Gygax to get money for Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, because
I
they
mean,
never made any money off of it. That's the thing. The huge boom bang that went off, those guys never got rich out of that. They didn't. They should have, but they didn't. And that's why they were kind of at each other's throats for cash because they had nothing, right? I think the only one that
well,
came
that's
out
that's the,
kind of okay was
yeah.
Greenwood.
No, actually, Greenwood didn't get royalties for Forgotten Realms.
Well, I mean, after the
So
fact.
he talks about
After the
he
fact,
got
he learned how to
screwed out
make
of that.
money. I just don't think those early guys were really good
Yeah, after,
businessmen. Probably the best businessman we've ever seen come
no,
out
and
of
after the fact,
D&D was Monty Cook. Monty knows how to make fucking money.
yeah, and I was gonna bring that up. Is he's rolling and he's bringing up a new system.
Yeah,
And that's
here he
something I want to
has.
look into. I think
Yeah.
it's just about to hit the new one on KS.
Well, he's had a few,
Okay,
right?
I thought I just he's had a few, but he's rolling out like another one in the next like few weeks.
And I don't know
The
if you
guy's
guys
just constantly
saw Monty's, Potulus. That is the most enormous,
Potless.
gigantic freaking resource book I've ever seen. It's longer than War and Peace. Insane amount of work. Insane. And he came out with his ninth world
Oh yeah.
years back, and that was pretty tight, dude. Another person who's really knows how to make money and stuff is like Margaret Weiss. She got screwed over by Marvel here when Disney bought it, but that lady knows how to make money too. So there are people, but I get your point. But I think Gary and Arnson just weren't really good businessmen. They were great mathematicians and really good at crunching the numbers and putting the fun on the table, coming from the wargaming world. But I think you're right. Who is this here?
It's kind of the curse of D&D is not managing their money right.
Yeah,
They
no, I
were
think so.
going bankrupt. They weren't working with it. Yeah, back in second edition days, they didn't work out with their bookkeepers. They were losing money on everything they printed. They were spending more on the fabrication and distribution than they were on their sticker price. So they actually that's what put him in the position where Watsky was able to buy him. They were still huge back then, during second edition, but they sold themselves out.
No, that's true. They shouldn't have sold it to Hasbro.
Told Yeah, Tolis. That's it. Oh yeah, he's got another book out that's launching for Tolis.
Oh, does he? Oh, okay. Well, I kind of read through all the books for the ninth world, and that was interesting what he did with that. But I mean, Monte Carlo. I mentioned Monty, because he tons of D&D stuff he did. He's just incredibly prolific, and he knows how to market himself. And maybe you're right, Lorenzo. Maybe Gary was on the spectrum. It's possible.
Well, it's possible. Not very many people can memorize Webster's, but he did.
Yeah.
It's not an easy task.
No, it's not. And yeah, no, he was a good
No,
writer.
yeah.
Yeah, Gary was great, dude. Gary was great. And here's the thing: these assholes that are running WotC now, name one of them. Anybody? Anybody?
What, Perkins?
Yeah.
For the
Chris
most.
Perkins, Mike Merles.
Oh, shut up! God damn it, Bill.
He was trying to prove a point. You ruined it.
Damn, Bill.
They are pretty well known, but doesn't mean they're legends. But it's interesting. Perkins, he's been around for a long time, and he doesn't look like he's aging at all.
Well,
Kind of
blood
creeps
of
me out.
children and all.
I was about to say
That
that.
might be it.
Lorenzo says, "I'm on the spectrum myself."
He's
Well, Lorenzo, I am a spectrum.
Oh wow!
Thank you. I'll
All
be
right.
here all week.
Hey, lady.
Hey, Lady Kelton, want to jump in? Oh, there she is. She's from Texas, West Texas specifically.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't like them South Texans. They're a bit weird.
Oh.
I love this picture, by the way. I mean, this is back when they're still trying to flesh out what a dwarf is, right? We have this kind of perfect image now, right?
Yeah, there's Brunor from the Crystal Shard is what that's pictures from.
That's what it is, yeah. But I'm just saying that
that's a great one.
That was a great series, by the way. Gave us Dritz de Werden and Wolfgar, but Dritz became the most popular, of course. Yeah. No, it's interesting because with D&D going on and on and on, and we get this better image of a dwarf, and then of course with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, it's completely solidified what a dwarf looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the dwarves come from the Nordic Dvergar, right? And do you know what the description of the original Dvergar are? Very tall, black-skinned humans. Isn't it interesting how that happened over time? Because if you read the old Aesir legends, Asgard and all that kind of stuff. If you read those old legends and you read it with a worldview, a real worldview, you can see very easily the 9 realms are simply Europe and North Africa, right? And that's what they're really talking about. So the Dvergar, or what we call dwarves today, were black Africans. How did they become this?
So it's all their ancient nautical history wrapped into this. Huh?
It is, yeah. But isn't it weird, though, GFP? How did we get here?
I never really put that together.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of history that simply will never be known.
Yeah. It is a weird journey that brought us to this creature. But it is a cool creature, though. I do like it.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene is...
Yeah, a lot of my Norse mythology came from Thor comics.
Oh, well, actually, even though Norse mythology is the most popular right now, it's actually coming out of Ireland. It didn't go the other way. It's coming out of. Things we're starting to learn now, things didn't go east to west. They went west to east, which is weird because and the revelations that have been coming out the past 12, 15 years are quite shocking. So the actual Ilfir or elves in the stories are talking about the
Uh-huh.
Scandinavians. That's who they are, right? The light-haired, light-eyed.
They wouldn't be the Vanir or the
No, the
like
Vanir or the
the
Irish.
Vanir or the Aesir.
No, those are the Irish.
Okay, then okay.
Well, they weren't called Irish at that time, but you know what I mean. They
Huh.
were the Albions, or
Right.
even older, oh my God, I'm going to say the word, the Aryans. Uh oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh oh. But anyway, look what you did, Bill. That's your fault.
Yep. It's good.
Jeff says, "Hi, my son
We're
has
not playing tonight
Asperger's."
because yeah.
Just
Yeah,
blame,
I've got a
just
little bit of
blame
a
Zach.
cocktail going on
Zach's
myself.
making money.
It's good.
How dare he?
Yeah,
Well, Zach,
Zach.
yeah, Zach and Rabbit both canceled tonight, lady. So we're just chilling.
Mm. It
Mm,
actually works out pretty well. I do need to get a haircut, so I'm going to be calling in here in a couple of minutes, and I'm going to go get a haircut. But it's been a fun conversation. I've enjoyed sitting here just chatting about D&D. We don't do that enough, actually.
yeah.
Yeah,
You should get a mullet.
I'm not going to get a mullet. My hair is gotten to an inch long, and it must be dealt with.
We need to. All right, if we can do a GoFundMe to convince you to get a mullet, how much will we have to raise,
I don't think you
Chester?
all have enough money. Yeah, and besides, I'm not a person moved by financial means very easily. Um, but I had a mullet when I
His
was younger.
locks cannot be
GOP.
bought.
Yes, I am. Thank you. When I was in the 80s, when I was a high school boy, I had a mullet. Matter of fact, if you want to know what I look like, you can go look at the band Wham, and the guy who's not George Michael. That's exactly what I look like.
You were in Wham.
I could have been if I were gay, but limitations. But I did. I looked just like the dude from Wham. I had the same haircut, and I dressed similarly. Sadly enough, but it was the '80s. You can't blame me.
Yeah, that's true.
Somley's in here. Hey,
But
Somley.
we can still make fun of you for it though.
Well, of course. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, Strahd. Very nice. Which do you
Classic
prefer?
Strahd.
Do you
Yeah.
prefer Bram Stoker's Dracula or Strahd?
Hmm. You know, I've never actually played the
Um.
Strahd stuff, so I that's one of those things I did want to try though.
Mm. Well,
But yeah,
here's the thing, dude. I think he's fleshed out more than Dracula. I think he's a more developed character than Dracula. I mean,
Yeah,
I know
he
that's
is.
shocking to say, but I think it is.
but Dracula is a
I
classic.
do like the mystery though of the unfleshed out
Nah,
character of the
that's fair.
classics. I
That
always
is
will
fair.
go revert to a
Yeah.
classic.
That
It's
is
just
fair.
because
Yeah.
the inspiration. So I think that's where I'm at
Yeah.
is the original.
No, that makes sense. I mean,
But
but in
yeah,
a D&D
I
setting,
would
you need
I
the
would
information
I'd
from the
run.
DM, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'd run Ravenloft. I'd run the old I6 module for
Oh,
sure.
jeez,
That
man,
would be
that's a
fun.
death
I'd like
trap,
to.
dude.
Oh, but you know what? It might be
Dude,
fun.
they're all death traps back in that day. They're all death traps.
Yeah,
The
and
old
As
maybe
long
models
that's
as
are
we don't,
vicious, man.
as long as we don't have to play Tomb of Horrors.
oh my god, dude. But I
But
mean,
that one is such a good one too
yeah.
Oh,
But
for the DM.
well, no, but the thing with the
There's
old
like no
systems,
combat.
once you kept the character alive, though, it really became endearing to you, right? Um, and sometimes people would even it would become too important to them, to be honest with you.
yeah.
As Tom Hanks has taught us.
Yeah. Well,
Maze
I
and
mean,
Monsters, everyone. If you haven't
even.
seen that movie,
Oh, I thought you were talking about uh, Wilson, the soccer ball.
no, Maze and
No.
Monsters, man, that was built off the fake news about this kid dying in the sewers. And he ended up
Oh, yeah.
finding him months later in a different state. But the urban legend was D&D will make you go crazy and you'll join a cult of Satan and run around in sewers under big cities, and that's
Hey,
where
yeah,
Amazing Monsters movie came in.
yeah.
It's good stuff.
The D&D panic, right? Yeah. But back in the
Yeah,
Well, people
80s,
gotta.
totally.
I think people forget that the 80s was really a lot was the fighting decade, where the last conservatives and Christians and more normal day to day people really had their last big push against this demon rock and roll and all the other stuff that came with it. Since then, they just gave up and lost, and it's just been getting more and more decadent and falling down just decade after decade. So.
Well, they then those people die off. It's
Yeah,
just
but the thing
that's
is,
how it
they were
goes.
right. They were right in a way.
Yeah,
Some stuff,
they're absolutely
sure.
right.
Not everything, but I mean, I think it's pretty obvious now, like the whole, Soviet infiltration, all that shit.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
devil. Sorry, my bad. I forgot to mute my phone. Um, yeah, but I mean that was that was a long time, coming. Like I guess they were that was a seed that was planted since the 30s.
No, that's
So
true. That is true. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I don't think initially they were in cahoots with each other. But those Soviet infiltrators helped the Democratic Party more than anything. Incredibly so, actually.
I mean they were involved in a lot of stuff. Like I said, going back to the 30s. I mean, there was basically a number of government agencies that were just a back door
Oh, the
for
Unearth
a bunch of
Arcana.
people. Yeah, a bunch of people in the Communist Party to get involved, and you know it's pretty well documented from back
Oh yeah,
then.
yeah, no,
Like
and they
you know,
won over the black community completely, and the black community still votes Democrat, even though all the harm that has come to you has come out of Democrats, but they still vote for the
yeah,
Democrats, and that like I said, it helped the Democrats, but a lot of that came with the Soviet infiltrators who were sent over to spread communism. They always start with what they consider to be the lowest common denominator. In that case, they thought they went after the black people. They said, "Oh, these are disenfranchised, lower members of society. We'll twist them not to our ways, and we'll rock the foundation." And
well,
they successfully did. They just didn't go the way they wanted. It rolled over into the Democratic Party because the vultures saw opportunity, right?
yeah, well, the thing is, like the when the communists were trying to get, like, were trying to push revolution, and their political views in the
Mm.
states. The whole communist message didn't really work as well after World War II,
No,
especially
that's
going
true.
into the
That is true.
50s.
Yeah, in
Like, you
America
couldn't
anyway.
really make the economic argument for it in the United States because we
No.
were just we were in such a boom that it was pretty much impossible for them to make headroads that way. But
Yeah.
they realized, well, there's the racial divide, and so that's why we have identity politics in the way they are, because I mean it's all based off of Marx's class theory.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
sure.
a
It definitely is. That's
retelling of
true.
that.
Yeah. Bianca
Yeah,
Zombie's in here and she says, bring back McCarthy. I agree. I agree.
I absolutely
Witch
agree.
burnings, too. Yeah.
And then,
Well, no,
but speaking of class theory, though,
Hmm.
I was thinking in the next campaign we'd run Unearth Arcana and meld that into it, so you'd have more class options instead of just the old seven. You
Ooh,
guys
the
like that
Cavalier.
idea? Or what would you be interested in?
I love
The
the Unearthed
Cavalier,
Arcana. That's one of my favorite
Acrobat.
books, dude.
Yeah,
Acrobat?
I'd
there's
be
a
down, but I
Gav.
don't.
Was it the OSC
I'm
put
always
out?
down for
They
more
basically
options.
supplements. So they have, yeah, they have a lot more options. And there's also, and we could do a light version of AD&D, and just take it as far as I can stand. Because speaking of deep and wide, that Dungeon Master guide is freaking insane.
Yeah.
Um, I will use the tables for communicable diseases, but other than that, I don't know.
Mm.
There's just
Oh,
it's
nice.
No, you're in trouble, GOP.
there's a table
You are in
Well, no,
trouble.
I'm
there's
not
a
playing
table
as
in there for everything.
Cornelius, so I think I'll be okay.
That fair enough. Corny tip is safe.
Yeah,
Ooh,
Corny.
great bit of art from the D&D cartoon. Nice.
Yeah,
I
someone redid Avenger. That one, that's a nice one.
now
Lady
if we
Celtic
if
Moon says the witch
They
is
do
not
have
in
some
that.
stats for him and
Um, I think the witch was in a dragon magazine, wasn't it?
or Witcher. She's
oh
saying no,
no,
Witcher
No,
would
she said witch.
you can make a
Oh,
Witcher type
Witcher. She
character.
changed. Oh, I see. I see. You could make a Witcher easy. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think in our
yeah.
next campaign, Chester, we got to try and take over the world. That's just got to be
So
our goal.
can I be Pinky? I'll be
Yes, because
you be
Yes.
Pinky was secretly the smart one.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like
Gosh, did you ever see the game, the RPG called
oh
Toon?
no.
It was
no,
essentially that you made
I'll be right
cartoon
back.
characters, and you had abilities like to paint a hole in the wall or and run through it.
Oh, nice.
Um, you could stretch your body. You can manipulate like a room so that it would be like that side-scrolling cartoon where the rooms are never ending.
That's neat. Yeah, that see,
Oh, that was a yeah.
there used to be tons of little indie role playing settings. One of my favorite indie things is Hole, human occupied landfill.
Oh,
Yeah, and there
Oh,
and
oh my
the
gosh!
source book, buttery wholesomeness. Yeah, I love those two books, man.
What?
I adore them. Yes.
I'll have to score. Have to scour the internet see if I can find a copy of that one.
Yeah, yeah,
You can't
yeah.
find these things anymore
Nah,
at
maybe
all.
not. Yeah. I got a
Yeah,
I got a
they're
library
just
behind me full of
no.
stuff, so hundreds of books.
I mean, anyone who had access to a photocopier or Xerox had an RPG, and then in later years, anyone who could get had a word processing program, like during the Werewolf when Werewolf came out, man, the market was just flooded with games, absolutely flooded with games. It was really cool.
It was cool, yeah.
Um,
Somebody said,
everyone had
"Look
a word
forward to the
processing
next
program
campaign,
now.
even though this has been the best so far." Well, thank you, Sumley. Thank you. Slap me
Yeah,
in the
thank you.
face twice. All right,
you wanted to be a player.
I did.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why it's so good.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's been fun really playing with it and getting with the characters, their motivations, and tying that into the framework of the module and it blowing the module up. I mean, I added so much content just because of what these guys did.
Oh, sure.
Um, instead of instead of just railroading module, chapter to chapters.
As it should
I mean,
be, dude.
as it should be. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, even right now, we're just going to spend 4 weeks on one chapter because we're turning this into, geez, like this Zonful's Tower. That could be a new base operations for you guys.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I
Travel to
definitely want it.
multiverse.
Yeah, without
Oh, that's
question.
going to be
Yeah.
a blast.
I just my greedy ass just wants to make sure I get all my things.
That's true. That's true.
I'm
Yeah,
s-
you
I'm
can
so
have all of them.
sad that I lost my bag of holding. I need to get a new one. Could be the first thing
Well,
I try and
I know.
do.
No, I did have the Lord written up, but you were absolutely right. It should have blown up as soon as you put it in your bag. But the later I play, man, the more details I forget.
I mean,
So
there's a lot of random stuff. You can't remember everything.
That's true. That's true.
no, and I don't want to write. I don't want to write pages and pages and then have to refer to them, while we're playing. So I just do bullet points, and if I write much at all,
Yeah, and
a lot of
that was a great way to get me to stop stealing.
That
Major
is
point.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. That's fair.
hey,
Uh,
no, I mean you can still steal, but just realize, man, there's always a cost,
Oh,
man. You always have to pay to play.
I know. I just that was a great way to like now because now my character it has to actually take some
Yep.
time now.
yeah.
It has to be a bit
Yeah,
more
and the
cautious.
Leroy's
It was
parents.
nice.
Yeah, you do have to be more cautious because, man, the threat level's bigger. I was threat level midnight now. Threat
Oh,
level midnight.
Mm.
nice.
Just picture.
Yeah, I thought we weren't allowed to say that
Yep.
word anymore. Racist. Um, anyway,
Oh,
I'm going. There actually is a good game system called Midnight, by the way. But anyway, I'm gonna call it today. We had a nice little chat. I'm gonna go get my hair cut, dude. I'm
All
definitely
right.
gonna get my hair cut.
Hear it. Maybe
Opportunity.
get the mullet.
My
Get
wife
the
even
mullet.
gave me cash to do so. I don't ever have
Oh, look
cash.
at you.
Yeah, I never have cash on me, dude. Right? But this is I have to have cash for this to get my hair cut. So there you go. I'm going. All right, guys.
All
Uh,
right.
well, you got anything to say, GOP, before we get out of here?
Nothing really. Always wash behind your ears.
Yes, that's a very good point. That is.
Yes.
Bill, fair enough.
So like, there's this new market for like disposable wipes after
hmm
you buy toilet paper. I
hmm
think that's a
Oh,
scam. I don't think you need both.
No, that's
I
fair
wouldn't put in a
enough.
duvet.
Yeah. Well,
Or was it a
everyone
bidet?
uses the word bidet these days, even though that's for women's. Yeah, but whatever.
I I don't
Okay.
get. I don't get it.
You have to have a period to understand it, GOP.
Maybe.
I'll talk. I'll sit you down and talk to you a little bit about it
Hey,
later.
Chester, you do realize that nowadays men can have the period too, okay?
I would
That's how the
actually.
world works. That's how the world works now
I
because
think
we're
I
all
would
insane.
actually axe a person in the head, dude. I think I would. Yeah.
We're all
Uh,
crazy.
no, I'm not. The world.
It's
I am
clown
sane.
world.
But
Hong Kong.
it is Clown World. That's true. All right, guys. Keep in mind, tomorrow we're off. We'll be back on Thursday. Hopefully, we should be for X Men. I guess we'll be doing X Men, which is cool. So we'll see you then. But other
Yeah.
than that, definitely later.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.